Hey everybody, just wanted to share a quick video on how I did the glass work for my rocket. So I shared what I did. A lot of people had great things to say, but there were a lot of questions too. So I figured I would create something to help kind of illustrate how easy of a process this really is. And honestly, you only need what's in front of me here. There was no sanding in this. So of course out of frame, we do have the tube that you want to glass. This one's already done, so I may be cheating a little bit. Next up here is the mylar you're going to use to wrap. Now there are some vendors out there in the space that can get you like glass packs like Lock Precision that includes the mylar and the fiberglass you want to use, but I needed a little extra, so I went to Amazon and I found this here, which is essentially Cricut stencil sheets. So you just cut those to size for the purpose you want to use them. Next up, we have the epoxy I used, which was West System 105 resin with 206 hardener. This provided me the work time I needed to make sure I was just doing a good job. Next up here, we have gloves. Always want to use that when you're working with epoxy. Then some kind of credit card to work the air bubbles out. Here I've got an expired NAR membership card. So next up, to make sure epoxy, you're going to need some mixing sticks, always great to have. And then last up here is some tape. So how did I do this, right? So essentially, make sure you cut out the size of the material you want to use. For here, for just demonstration purposes, I have fiberglass sheets. And I just kind of laid it on top of the mylar. Now, if you were going to do this fully, you're going to probably trim this up so it fits a little better around the fiberglass, so you're not wasting unnecessarily mylar. But what I did was mixed the epoxy, mixed that up really, really good. And then I took the mylar sheet and the tube I was wanting to work with and just drizzled the epoxy all over the tube. And then of course with gloves, I worked that around until I had epoxy all over the tube. Once that was done, I then laid down my fiberglass sheet onto the mylar I am using, and then took the tube and started rolling that up. So I'm gonna roll up that fiberglass to that sticky epoxy I put on the tube. Make sure you're not disrupting the pattern of the fiber. Now, it's not so much important with fiberglass, but if you're going to use exposed carbon fiber, being a little gentler with the fiber always wins the day. So you're going to roll that up good. And then at that point, what I would do once I had a real good cleaning of the fabric to the tube, I would then re-drizzle more epoxy on top and then very delicately work that around. Once I felt I had a good level of saturation, then what I'm going to do is take my mylar and then roll everything up in it. You know, one tip I would say is make sure your tape's ready before you go. This can help you roll everything up nice and tight. Make sure you're using a decent amount of pressure, but not enough to disrupt the fabric. And then once everything is rolled up, it'll look kind of like this if you're using fiberglass. Then at that point, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this card and I'm going to start in the center and start working those air bubbles out towards the edges. You're going to do that all the way around the tube. For me, it took quite a while, so don't expect immediate results. So you're going to work that out through the tube. Took me about an hour, and then once you feel confident that you have as many of the air bubbles out as you can get in that run, set it aside for what I did is about 6 to 7 hours. And then after that, ultimately, you can just unwrap your tube. And like a wax hair strip, you can just pull it off, right? And it'll leave you a nice glossy finish. And to illustrate, this took 2 coats of epoxy to build up. And as you can see, it's a nice glossy tube, and I did not have to do any sanding. So I hope this helps. I hope this was informative. Of course, feel free to reach out and ask questions if you have them. But maybe this kind of brings down the barrier of intimidation for you too. So always upward, y'all. Thanks.